What's up, guys? This is Kyle from Wax Museum. And some of you might have noticed that I haven't posted any card show recaps in the last few weeks. And while I'm still going to shows, they felt a little repetitive and I didn't want to bore you with the same video time after time. So instead, I've decided to piece together something that I've been wanting to make for a long time now. In today's video, I'm going to share 5 tips that I think will help you to optimize your card show experience. Now, with that being said, keep in mind that no two shows are exactly alike. This is just a general guide, and you might have to adapt 1 or 2 of these tips if you're headed to a big show like the National, for instance. And that's especially true for tip number 1, which comes into play the moment you walk into the door. Figure out what method you're going to use to walk the show floor. Now, the majority of the shows that I go to in the Central Florida area here are in probably the 80 to 100 table range, and the layout's a big rectangle. You have tables all around the perimeter, and then you might have maybe 6 sections of table on the inside. And if I just start walking to random tables, it's going to be hard for me to remember what I've seen and what I haven't. That's easy to do. Sometimes you get distracted. My solution to that, to keep me on task, is pretty simple. I make 1 lap around the perimeter, and then I hit the remaining 6 sections one at a time from one side of the room to the other. And this can still work if you're at a bigger show, say Dallas, for instance. You can still walk the perimeter of the room and then hit the sections on the inside, or you might get there and decide you want to break it up a different way. No matter what you choose, find a way that ensures you see every table that you want before you head back out those doors. And that leads us into tip number 2. Make sure to budget enough time to take in the full experience. And the key part there is the phrase, the full experience. If you're just trying to get a quick look at every showcase, you can zip around the show as fast as your legs will take you. But if you want to stop and look through every box and engage with dealers and look up comps and even engage with other collectors, you're going to have to give yourself some time. If you're going to an 80 to 100 table show, you probably want to set aside at least 2 hours. To be on the safe side, you might want to allow for even more. Now, you might not even spend that long there. Maybe you're only there for an hour. But whenever you start to rush yourself, you miss out on opportunities, or in some cases, you might even make rash decisions. You want enough time to make the decisions in an orderly manner and responsible manner according to whatever your budget is and whatever your needs are. And I understand that everyone is busy. So some people with small kids or people with large families might not be able to spend that much time at a show. That's fine. I still encourage you to go and do what you can. Find a way to enjoy the hobby with whatever amount of time you have at your disposal. Okay, now, one thing I mentioned in that last part bears repeating, and it's actually tip number 3. Make sure to engage with dealers. There's absolutely no way that you'll be able to optimize your experience without some sort of interaction with the dealers. And chances are most cards at a card show aren't going to have the price marked on them. I wish they did. That would make things a lot easier for me. If they do have prices on them, they might be a little bit high. They might be a starting point. And they're priced that way with the expectation that the buyer's going to try and talk the seller down a little bit. So expect to make offers on cards, whether they're priced or not. If you're wanting to purchase multiple cards, I would also suggest trying to bundle them together to get a little bit cheaper of a price. In a lot of cases, the more you buy, the more a seller is willing to work with you on price. But at the same time, you have to be realistic. Don't try to spend a bunch of time trying to verbally devalue a card that you're wanting to buy. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? You're saying, well, it's got this scratch here and got that there and that there. At some point, the dealer's just going to say, well, do you really want this card, right? Or don't spend all day devaluing the price of the experience. For example, I've heard buyers trying to tell dealers that, you know what, hey, you're the dealer, you're saving eBay fees, so you should sell me these for cheaper. Well, this completely ignores the fact that the dealer has had to pay for the table, probably a couple of meals. If they're traveling, you've got travel expenses, either a flight or you've got gas money, a hotel room, all of that just to be able to set up at the show. So long story short, know that there are costs on both sides. It's also to your benefit to listen to how the dealer interacts with other customers that were at the table before you. And that won't always happen. You won't always have someone there in front of you. But if you do, you can look through the boxes and kind of listen at the same time. For instance, about a month ago, I watched a buyer try to go back and forth with a seller who already had fair prices on his stuff. And the seller stopped him and basically said, look, I'm at 75% of these comps. So then I was up next. I had 3 cards in my hand that I would have happily paid full sticker price on. But because of what I had just heard, I offered him 75%, and he instantly accepted. It was a very, very easy transaction. I knew that was probably a safe figure to go with because of what I had just heard, because of what just went down. But how do you know what's actually a fair price, right? We're talking about, I knew the stickers were fair. Well, that leads us to tip number 4. Have some familiarity with comps, especially if there is a predetermined list of cards that you're hunting for. Let's say there are 10 cards that you're really wanting, right? Or maybe even less than that, maybe 5. It'd be a lot easier if it's just 5. You should know what to expect to pay for those before you walk in the door, especially if they're liquid and hit the marketplace often. For everything else, you need to know how to use the tools you have access to. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, I would say it was frowned on to stand at someone's table and look up comps on your phone. That seems kind of crazy now, but that really was, at least in the local area here where I'm at, that was a common thing. So a lot has changed and it's pretty normal now. Everyone does it now. So the obvious places to look would be completed eBay listings and 130point.com. Those are both free. Of course, you've also got the other big auction houses too if it's a bigger card. And then if you want a one-stop shop for a lot of that info, you might try an app like the Card Ladder app. I know there are some other ones out there as well. I haven't used the other ones. But my suggestion, even if you're using an app that kind of aggregates all of that data, don't just rely on one source. You should also look for a range of prices. And I'll see people, they might try and pull comps from damaged cards or off-centered cards, or cards where there's some sort of issue, and leverage those against a card that's in much better condition. Dealers will obviously see through that. They know their inventory, so be honest with dealers and be reasonable. Most people will work with you, and then if they won't, that's probably a sign that you should move on. All right, now let's say they do work with you and you're able to work out a deal, which is, a great feeling. That brings us to tip number 5, which is very simple. Cash is king, right? Most dealers will accept multiple methods of payment. I've seen, PayPal is very common at shows next to cash. People do ask about Venmo, and then I've also heard Cash App. I've never heard anyone turn down cold hard cash, though. And you have to determine how much you're comfortable carrying with you. Some shows will have ATMs in the lobby if it's at like a hotel or a venue, but you can't count on it. You need to have something ready to pay with. And very rarely will I see someone that's ready to swipe a credit card. I would not count on that at all. I still occasionally see people ask about that at a show. That's not common at all. Now, with that being said, you might be thinking, well, what if I bring my own cards? And I haven't even touched on trading yet, but some dealers are receptive to it. A lot of people will bring their case of cards with them. If you do, you should plan to have stuff comped ahead of time. That speeds the process up quite a bit. And then if you are looking at trading into another card, be prepared to give up more in value. Now, I won't get too much into the trading aspect. That's a conversation for another video. Just know, though, that that's an option. But at the end of the day, cash is still king, and it's a lot easier to deal with cash. All right, well, there you have it. I hope that was of some value to you, no matter your level of card show experience. Real quick, just to summarize, the 5 tips that I presented to you today are as follows. Number 1, map out the show floor. Number 2, make sure to budget enough time. Number 3, engage with dealers. Number 4, know your comps. And then number 5, cash is king. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully you got some value out of that. And obviously, this isn't every tip or suggestion for going to a card show. That video would have taken, hours to put together because there's a lot more that could be said. But maybe there's something big that I forgot and it's on your brain right now. Go ahead and just type that up, put it in the comments there. Feel free to hit the thumbs up to like this video. And as always, thanks for watching.